I remember that day like it was etched in my soul, a perfect picture shattered by whispers and secrets. It was my 30th birthday, and I had planned everything down to the last detail. The cafe was this cozy little spot downtown, with fairy lights strung across the ceiling, and the aroma of fresh coffee and pastries filling the air. I wanted it to be intimate, just my closest family, and a few dear friends. My husband, Alex, had helped me pick the place. He said it reminded him of our first date, all those years ago. I felt so loved, so cherished, as I stood there in my flowing blue dress, greeting everyone with hugs and laughter. My mom arrived first, looking radiant as always. She was in her early 50s but carried herself with the grace of someone much younger. She wore this elegant red dress that caught the light just right, and a delicate silver necklace that sparkled against her skin. "Happy birthday, my sweet girl," she said, pulling me into a warm embrace. I could smell her familiar perfume, the one that always made me feel safe. Then came my sister, Lena, 2 years younger than me, with her sharp wit and that infectious smile. She handed me a beautifully wrapped gift, whispering, "You're going to love this one." We were close, the three of us, Mom, Lena, and me. After Dad passed away 5 years ago, we'd become each other's anchors, or so I thought. The party was in full swing. Friends chatted animatedly, clinking glasses of mimosa, while soft music played in the background. Alex was by my side, his arm around my waist, making everyone laugh with his stories. I felt on top of the world, like nothing could touch this happiness. But then, as we all gathered around the table for cake, I noticed Lena leaning in close to Mom. Her face was tense, not the usual playful expression. She whispered something, her hand shielding her mouth, and Mom's eyes widened. I caught just a fragment. "While everyone's here, go and change, ... Mom nodded quickly, her cheeks flushing, and excused herself to the restroom. It was odd, but I brushed it off, maybe a wardrobe malfunction, a spill on her dress. Little did I know, that whisper was the first crack in the facade of my perfect life. As Mom slipped away, the party continued. We sang Happy Birthday, the candles flickering on the chocolate cake I'd chosen specially. I blew them out, making a wish for more days like this, surrounded by love. When Mom returned, she looked different. Her necklace was gone, tucked away somewhere, and she'd adjusted her dress slightly. She smiled brightly, but there was a shadow in her eyes, a nervousness I hadn't seen before. Lena avoided my gaze, busying herself with pouring drinks. I felt a tiny pang of unease, like a distant storm cloud on a sunny day, but I pushed it aside. After all, it was my birthday. We toasted to family, to unbreakable bonds. If only I had listened to that inner voice, the one whispering that something was off. But what I didn't know that day was how deep the betrayal ran. How the people I trusted most had been weaving a web of deceit right under my nose. The celebration carried on, laughter echoing through the cafe, but beneath it all, the mystery of that whisper lingered, pulling at the threads of my reality. As the afternoon wore on, that uneasy feeling grew, like a knot tightening in my chest. I tried to focus on the joy, the gifts unwrapped, the stories shared, but my mind kept drifting back to Mom's quick exit and Lena's hushed words. Why the urgency? Why now, in the middle of everything? Alex noticed my distraction. He squeezed my hand under the table and asked if I was okay. Just tired from all the excitement, I lied, forcing a smile. But inside, doubts began to swirl. It started innocently enough. While helping clear some plates, I overheard a snippet of conversation between Lena and one of my friends. Mom's necklace looked familiar, my friend said casually. Lena laughed it off, but her voice was strained. Familiar. I thought back to the silver chain Mom had been wearing earlier. It did remind me of something, the necklace Alex had given me for our anniversary last year. He'd said it was one of a kind, custom made with a tiny engraving on the back, our initials intertwined. My heart skipped a beat. No, it couldn't be. I excused myself and went to the restroom, my hands trembling as I pulled out my phone. I scrolled through old photos until I found one of me wearing that very necklace. The design was identical. The realization hit me like a wave, crashing over me and leaving me breathless. How did Mom have my necklace? And why had Lena urged her to hide it? I felt a surge of confusion, then anger bubbling up. Back at the table, I watched them closely. Mom was chatting animatedly with Alex, her hand lightly touching his arm, a gesture that suddenly seemed too familiar, too intimate. Lena caught my eye and quickly looked away. The pieces started falling into place, each one more painful than the last. I remembered the late nights Alex had been working, the weekends Mom and Lena would visit without much notice, the excuses, the secretive phone calls. Had I been blind? That evening, after everyone left, I confronted Alex at home. "Where's my anniversary necklace?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside. He hesitated, his face falling. I don't know, maybe you misplaced it. But I pressed on, showing him the photo. The lies unraveled quickly. He broke down, admitting everything. For months, he'd been seeing my mom. "It started as comfort after Dad's death," he said, "but turned into something more. Mom, lonely and vulnerable, had fallen for his charm. And Lena, she knew. She'd walked in on them once and promised to keep their secret, thinking it would blow over. That whisper at the party. Lena had spotted the necklace and panicked, telling Mom to remove it before I noticed. The betrayal shattered me. My own mother, the woman who raised me, stealing away the man I loved. And my sister, my confidant, covering for them. I felt broken, like my world had been torn apart. Tears streamed down my face as I screamed at Alex to leave. He packed a bag and went, begging for forgiveness I couldn't give. Alone in the silence, the pain consumed me. Waves of heartbreak, anger, and disbelief. How could they do this? I paced the room, my mind racing, but amid the despair, a spark ignited. I wouldn't let this destroy me. No. I would rise from the ashes, stronger. The shift happened slowly, from victim to avenger. I began to plan, my hurt fueling a quiet determination. They had underestimated me, but soon, they would face the consequences of their deceit. The days that followed were a blur of raw emotion, but I channeled it into action. I couldn't let their betrayal define me. Instead, it became the fire that forged my resolve. First, I gathered evidence, texts from Alex's phone I'd backed up, photos, even a hotel receipt I'd found hidden in Mom's purse during a casual visit. I invited Mom and Lena over for what I called a family talk, pretending I wanted to heal. They arrived looking guilty, Mom with tear-streaked cheeks, Lena fidgeting nervously. "We never meant to hurt you," Mom said, her voice breaking. Lena nodded, adding, "It was a mistake, sis. Please forgive us." But forgiveness wasn't on my mind. As we sat in the living room, I pulled out my laptop and played a recording I'd made of Alex's confession. Their faces drained of color. "You recorded that?" Lena gasped. I nodded, my voice calm but edged with steel. "You both shattered my trust. Now, it's time you felt the weight of your actions." I told them I was filing for divorce and cutting ties. But that wasn't all. I had contacted our extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, and shared the truth in a group message, attaching the evidence. No embellishments, just the facts. The responses flooded in. Shock, disappointment, support for me. Mom and Lena were exposed, their perfect images crumbling. The climax came at a family gathering 2 weeks later. One Mom had organized before everything exploded. I showed up unannounced, poised and composed. Whispers followed me as I entered, but I held my head high. When Mom approached, pleading for privacy, I spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You betrayed me in the shadows. Now the truth comes to light." Lena tried to intervene, but it was too late. Relatives confronted them, questions flying. Mom broke down, admitting her weakness, while Lena stammered apologies. Alex, who had been invited by Mom, slunk away in shame. It wasn't violent or cruel, just the raw exposure of their deceit, letting justice unfold naturally. In the end, I walked away from that gathering feeling a strange peace. The divorce went through smoothly. Alex lost friends and his reputation at work when word spread. Mom and Lena faced isolation from the family, their bonds strained by the fallout. I moved to a new city, starting fresh with therapy and new dreams. It wasn't about destruction. It was about reclaiming my life. Looking back, that birthday whisper was the unraveling of illusions I held dear. Betrayal from those closest cuts deepest, but it also teaches resilience. I learned that true strength comes from facing pain head-on, not hiding from it. Family should be a sanctuary, but when it's not, you have the power to build your own. To anyone listening, cherish trust, but guard your heart. And remember, from the ashes of heartbreak, you can rise renewed. The sun filtered through the cafe windows that afternoon, casting a warm glow over everything, but little did I know, shadows were already creeping in. It was my birthday. A milestone I'd been looking forward to 4 months. Turning 28 felt like the start of something new. Vibrant, full of promise. I'd chosen this quaint little cafe in the heart of the city, with its mismatched chairs, exposed brick walls, and the comforting hum of conversation blended with the clatter of coffee cups. It was supposed to be a simple celebration. Just me, my family, and a handful of close friends. My boyfriend, Jake, had surprised me by decorating the table with balloons and a bouquet of my favorite lilies. "You deserve the world, babe," he whispered as he kissed my cheek, making my heart flutter. Mom was there, of course, her presence always a steady anchor in my life. She looked elegant in a soft floral blouse and skirt, her hair pinned back just so. She'd been through so much since Dad left us years ago, but she'd rebuilt herself with quiet strength. Then there was my older sister Clara, who arrived fashionably late, as always. Her laugh cutting through the room like a melody. She hugged me tightly, her perfume lingering a mix of vanilla and something sharper. "Happy birthday, little sis. This is going to be unforgettable," she said with a wink. We were inseparable growing up, sharing secrets and dreams under the covers late at night. Family meant everything to me. They were my foundation, my safe haven. As the party kicked off, the air filled with chatter and the scent of fresh pastries. Friends shared stories from our college days, and Jake proposed a toast that had everyone raising their glasses. I felt wrapped in love, like nothing could pierce this bubble of joy. But then, midway through, as we were about to cut the cake, I saw Clara lean over to Mom. Her expression shifted from playful to urgent, her hand cupping her mouth as she whispered, "Change now." Mom's eyes darted around the table, a flicker of panic crossing her face before she composed herself. She nodded subtly and excused herself, murmuring something about freshening up. It was quick, almost unnoticeable, but I caught at the tension in Clara's posture, the way Mom's hand trembled slightly as she stood. I tried to shake it off, telling myself it was nothing. Maybe Mom had spilled something on her blouse, or perhaps it was one of those sisterly inside jokes they shared. The cake was sliced, wishes were made, and laughter resumed. When Mom returned a few minutes later, she seemed the same, but her blouse looked slightly different. Had she adjusted it? Clara avoided my curious glance, busying herself with her phone. A small seed of doubt planted itself in my mind, growing quietly amid the festivities. We posed for photos, arms linked, smiles wide for the camera. But beneath the surface, that whisper echoed in my thoughts, a subtle rift in the harmony. What I didn't know that day was how that single moment would unravel the threads of trust I'd woven so carefully. The party continued, glasses clinking, but the warmth felt a tad cooler, the light a bit dimmer, until everything changed, and the family secret I'd never suspected came tumbling out, threatening to shatter us all. The unease from that whisper clung to me like a fog, even as the party wrapped up and we said our goodbyes. Jake and I headed home, his hand in mine, but my mind wandered back to the cafe. "You seemed distracted toward the end," he noted gently as we drove. I shrugged it off with a laugh, but inside, questions swirled. Why change now? What was so pressing that it couldn't wait? That night, sleep evaded me. I scrolled through the photos from the party on my phone, zooming in on Mom and Clara. There was something off in their expressions, a shared glance that spoke volumes. The next morning, curiosity got the better of me. I called Clara, keeping my tone light. "Hey, what was that whisper about at the party?" "Mom, okay." There was a pause, too long to be casual. "Oh, nothing, just girl stuff," she replied, her voice a touch higher than usual. It didn't sit right. I decided to visit Mom unannounced, bringing leftover cake as an excuse. She welcomed me with her usual hug, but her eyes held a wariness. We chatted over tea, and I casually mentioned the whisper. Her cup clattered slightly against the saucer. "Whisper? I don't recall," she said. But her cheeks flushed. That's when I noticed a small tattoo peeking from under her sleeve. Fresh and red around the edges. It was a date, inked in delicate script. My birthday. No, it was different. "Mom, what's that?" I asked, reaching out. She pulled her arm back quickly, but not before I saw it clearly. "Jake's birthday." My heart stuttered. Jake's birthday tattooed on her arm. It made no sense. She stammered in explanations. It was a coincidence, a meaningful date from her past. But the lie hung heavy in the air. I left feeling hollow, pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve clicking into place. Back home, I confronted Jake. "Why does my mom have your birthday tattooed on her?" His face went ashen. He tried to deny it at first, but the truth spilled out in fragments. It started innocently. He claimed Mom reaching out for advice on dating apps after feeling lonely. But conversations turned flirtatious, then intimate. They'd been seeing each other secretly for months. Clara had found out by accident, walking in on a text exchange. Instead of telling me, she covered for them, thinking it was a phase Mom needed. That whisper at the party. Clara had noticed the tattoo showing and urged Mom to change now, to roll down her sleeve or adjust her blouse to hide it before I saw. The betrayal crashed over me like a tidal wave, drowning me in pain. My own mother, crossing that unthinkable line with the man I loved, and my sister, choosing silence over loyalty. I felt shattered, my trust in them broken into irreparable pieces. Tears flowed endlessly as I screamed at Jake to get out. He left, head bowed, mumbling apologies that meant nothing. Alone, the heartbreak consumed me, nights of sobbing, days of numbness. How could they? The family I'd idolized was a facade. But in the depths of that despair, something stirred. A quiet rage, transforming into resolve. I wouldn't crumble. No, I'd expose the truth, make them face the consequences. The shift from pain to power was subtle at first, but it grew, fueling my every step. They had destroyed my world. Now, I'd rebuild it on my terms, stronger than before. With the truth laid bare, I didn't rush into chaos. Instead, I planned with a calm precision born from hurt. I collected proof screenshots of messages I'd found on Jake's old laptop, timestamps, matching their innocent meets. I invited Mom, Clara, and Jake to a reconciliation dinner at my place, my voice steady over the phone. They arrived separately, each wearing masks of remorse. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed. Clara fidgeted with her necklace. Jake shifted uncomfortably. I want to understand, I said softly, serving wine to ease the tension. They relaxed a bit, sharing halting explanations: Mom's loneliness, Jake's weakness, Clara's misguided protection. But, as dessert came, I revealed my hand. I projected the messages onto the TV screen, each one a dagger of deceit. You thought you could hide this? I asked, my tone even but laced with steel. Mom gasped, covering her mouth. Clara whispered, how did you? Jake stood, protesting, but I cut him off. This ends tonight. I told them I was done ending things with Jake for good, and stepping back from Mom and Clara until they earned my trust again. But the real justice, I shared the story anonymously on a family forum our relatives frequented, with redacted details but enough truth to spark recognition. No malice, just exposure. The fallout was swift. Relatives called, shocked and supportive, confronting Mom about her choices. Clara lost her standing as the reliable one. Her job in family counseling, ironically, questioned. Jake's friends distanced themselves when word spread through our shared circles. At a cousin's wedding a month later, the climax of it all, I arrived composed, greeting everyone warmly. Mom and Clara were there, isolated in the crowd's whispers. When Mom approached, tears in her eyes, I said firmly, actions have echoes. Yours shattered us. Clara tried to apologize publicly, but the damage was done. Their secrets exposed. They faced the isolation they'd imposed on me. In time, I found peace. The breakup led me to therapy, where I healed old wounds. I started a new chapter, a job promotion, new friends, even tentative dates. Mom and Clara reached out eventually, changed by the consequences, and we began mending slowly, with boundaries. That tense whisper at my birthday party unveiled a secret that could have destroyed me, but instead, it taught me the fragility of trust. Betrayal from family cuts deepest, yet it reveals your inner strength. I learned to value honesty above all, to guard my heart without closing it. To anyone facing similar shadows, rise above the pain, seek justice with grace, and remember, true healing comes from within. From betrayal's ashes, you can emerge whole. I can still taste the vanilla frosting on my tongue when I close my eyes, because that's the moment everything turned bitter. It was my 25th birthday, and the cafe smelled like cinnamon and hope. Tiny gold balloons floated above our corner table, and the afternoon light spilled across the wooden floor like warm honey. I'd saved 4 weeks to treat the people I loved most: Mom, my sister Harper, my fiancé Thin, and 3 childhood friends. I felt like the luckiest girl alive. Mom walked in first, glowing in a cream silk blouse I'd never seen before. The fabric caught the light every time she moved, and a delicate gold bracelet glinted on her wrist. Happy quarter century, baby, she sang, kissing my forehead. Harper arrived right after, sleek black hair, red lipstick, designer sunglasses pushed up like a crown. She hugged me so hard my ribs creaked. Tonight's all about you, she promised, slipping a velvet box into my hand. Inside was a pair of diamond studs that must have cost her a fortune. Ethan squeezed my shoulder, whispering, see? Everyone adores you. We laughed, we toasted, we took 100 photos. Then, just as the waiter set down the 3-tiered cake, I saw it. Harper leaned across the table, shielding her mouth with her menu, and whispered something to Mom. Mom's smile froze. Her fingers flew to the bracelet, twisting it like she could make it disappear. Harper's voice was low but sharp. Mom, change while they're here. Mom nodded once, eyes wide, and slipped toward the restroom. I laughed it off at first. Maybe coffee had splashed on her sleeve, but when she came back 5 minutes later, the bracelet was gone. and the top 2 buttons of her blouse were fastened higher, hiding something underneath. Harper wouldn't meet my eyes. Ethan was busy cutting cake, oblivious. A cold thread tugged at my heart. I blew out the candles anyway, smiling for the camera, but the wish I made wasn't for love or travel, it was for the truth, because in that single hushed moment, the sister I'd shared every secret with and the mother who'd tucked me in every night had just drawn a line between us, and I was on the wrong side of it. What I didn't know that day was that the bracelet wasn't the only thing Mom was hiding, and Harper wasn't protecting her from a stain. She was protecting her from me. The next 48 hours felt like walking through fog with broken glass under my feet. I kept replaying Harper's whisper on a loop. Change while they're here. Change what? Why the panic? I started with the bracelet. I'd seen it before. Ethan had shown me the exact design on his phone 3 months ago, custom-made, $4,000. For someone special, he'd said with a secretive grin. I thought it was for me. That night, while Ethan showered, I opened his laptop. One search in his browser history, gold bracelet with hidden engraving delivery. The order confirmation popped up. Shipped to H. Bennett, my mother's initials. My stomach lurched. I drove to Mom's house at midnight. She was in her robe, startled to see me. Sweetie, it's late. I held up my phone with the order page. Explain. Her face crumpled. She didn't even try to lie. The words poured out like poison. Late night talks after Dad died. Ethan checking on her. Coffee turning into wine. Wine turning into kisses. Kisses turning into 6 months of stolen afternoons while I was at work. The bracelet was an anniversary gift. Their anniversary. And Harper. She'd known for 4 months. Walked in on them once. Instead of telling me, she became their lookout. That whisper at the cafe. She'd spotted the hickey peeking above Mom's collar and forced her to button up and ditch the bracelet before I noticed. I screamed until my throat bled. Mom sobbed, begging on her knees. I left before I shattered something that couldn't be glued back together. Ethan came home to an empty apartment and a single post-it on the fridge. The ring is in the drawer. Keep it. I don't want anything that touched her. For weeks I was a ghost. Couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. My best friend found me curled on the bathroom floor at 3 a.m., mascara rivers down my cheeks. The pain was physical, like someone had cracked open my ribcage and scooped out every ounce of trust I'd ever had. But one morning, staring at my hollow eyes in the mirror, something snapped. Not into pieces, but into steel. They thought I would shrink, disappear, let shame silence me. They were wrong. I wasn't going to beg for scraps of an explanation. I was going to make them choke on the truth they tried to swallow. I waited 3 months, long enough for them to believe I'd crawled away to lick my wounds. Step 1. I moved the wedding deposit into a new account. Ethan never noticed. Step 2. I printed every text, every hotel receipt, every photo Harper had accidentally left in the shared cloud. Step 3. I booked the same cafe, same corner table, same fairy lights, exactly 90 days later. Then I sent a single group text to Mom, Harper, Ethan, and 23 extended family members. Family brunch to celebrate new beginnings. My treat. Noon Sunday. Don't be late. They showed up separately, eyes darting, fake smiles plastered on. The second the waiter poured coffee, I stood. Thank you for coming, I said, voice clear as glass. Today we're celebrating truth. I clicked the remote. Behind me, the wall lit up with a slideshow. Mom's bracelet on Ethan's nightstand. Harper's texts. She's still at work. Coast clear. Mom's hotel selfie in Ethan's hoodie. The cafe fell silent. Aunt Linda gasped so loud her mimosa sloshed. Cousin Mike actually dropped his phone. Mom went white. Harper whispered Emily, please. I smiled, calm. You taught me family looks out for each other, right? Well, now everyone's looking out for me. I left the evidence folders on the table like party favors and walked out. By the time I reached my car, the group chat was exploding. Mom lost half her friends overnight. Harper's boss. Turns out she bragged about protecting family privacy, saw the screenshots and fired her for ethical breach. Ethan's company transferred him to a branch 3 states away after the scandal hit the internal gossip chain. The wedding deposit. I used it to book a solo trip to Greece. I swam in water so blue it washed the taste of betrayal right out of my mouth. Sometimes, Mom calls. Voice small, asking if we can talk. Harper sent a letter that I left unopened. Maybe one day I'll forgive. Forgiveness is for me, not them. But trust, that's dead and buried under the cafe floorboards. Right next to the birthday I'll never celebrate again. If you're listening and someone's whispering behind your back, trust the chill down your spine. Secrets rot everything they touch. but you get to decide whether to let them rot you, or to burn the whole lie down and dance in the ashes. I chose the fire, and I've never felt warmer. The moment the cafe door chimed, I thought my heart would burst from happiness. It was my 32nd birthday, and I had turned the little corner spot into a dream. Pastel roses on every table, a 3-tier strawberry cake, and a playlist of every song that ever made me feel alive. I wore the emerald dress my husband Mark had laid out for me that morning, whispering, "You're going to shine tonight, Liv." Mom arrived in a stunning ivory jumpsuit that hugged her like it was made for her. She spun once, laughing, the gold belt catching every light. My younger sister Zoe followed, camera in hand, already snapping photos. "This is Instagram gold," she squealed. Mark lifted his glass, "To the woman who makes every room brighter." Everyone cheered. I floated. Then, halfway through the appetizers, I saw it. Zoe leaned so close to Mom that their foreheads almost touched. Her lips barely moved, but I read them clear as day. "Change the outfit, now." Mom's smile vanished. She clutched the gold belt like it burned her, nodded once, and slipped toward the back hallway. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe champagne had spilled. Maybe the zipper broke. But when Mom returned 10 minutes later, the ivory jumpsuit was gone. She wore a plain black dress I'd never seen, sleeves tugged down to her wrists, hair suddenly pinned up. Zoe wouldn't look at me. Mark kept refilling my glass like nothing happened. I cut the cake anyway. Everyone sang. I smiled until my cheeks hurt, but inside, a tiny fracture had started, spiderwebbing across the perfect picture I'd painted of my life. Because that wasn't just any belt Mom had been wearing, it was the exact same belt Mark had bought for his new boss last month, and I was about to learn that some gifts aren't meant for the person you think. I didn't sleep that night. I kept seeing Mom's fingers trembling as she unbuckled that belt in the cafe restroom mirror. I kept hearing Zoe's whisper on repeat, "Change the outfit now." At 2 a.m. I opened Mark's iPad. One swipe through his hidden photos folder and the floor dropped out from under me. There were hundreds of pictures. Mom laughing in that ivory jumpsuit on our living room couch while I was at work. Mom asleep on Mark's chest in our bed. Mom, wearing the diamond earrings he told me got lost at the gym. The final photo was dated yesterday. Mom trying on the gold belt in our bedroom. Mark's arms around her waist. Caption, "She's never looked hotter." I drove to Zoe's apartment at dawn. She opened the door in pajamas, eyes already red. "How long?" I asked. She folded like paper. 8 months. She'd caught them the first time when she came over to borrow a dress. Mark begged her not to tell me. Said Mom was going through something after her divorce. Zoe swore she only kept quiet to protect me from worse pain. That whisper at the cafe. She'd seen the belt and panicked. Mom had forgotten to leave it at home. I laughed until I cried. Protect me. They'd been protecting their lie while I planned a future with a man who was sleeping with my mother under my own roof. I confronted Mark at the office. He didn't even deny it. Just said, "It wasn't planned, live. It just happened." Mom called 17 times. Left voicemails that shredded me. I was lonely. He made me feel young again. Please don't hate me. For weeks I was a shell. I lost 12 pounds. Stopped answering the door. My best friend found me sitting in a cold bath fully clothed, staring at the wall. The betrayal wasn't a knife. It was acid, eating through every memory, every holiday, every I love you. But one morning I caught my reflection, and didn't recognize the broken woman staring back. That's when the shift happened. Quiet, cold, final. I wasn't going to beg for apologies. I was going to make them drown in the truth they thought they could bury. I gave them 6 weeks of silence. Long enough for guilt to rot their sleep. Then I sent one text to Mom, Zoe, and Mark. Family dinner. My house, 7 p.m. Saturday. Don't you dare be late. They arrived separately, eyes swollen, carrying flowers and excuses. I greeted them in the same emerald dress for my birthday. Hair perfect, smile sharp. I served Mom's favorite lasagna. Poured Mark's favorite wine. Let them think forgiveness was on the table. Halfway through dessert, I stood, clicked the TV remote, and watched their faces collapse. A slideshow rolled across the screen. Every photo, every text, every hotel charge. Then the grand finale. Security footage I'd paid the cafe to pull from my birthday night. Crystal clear. Mom in the restroom, Zoe blocking the door. Both of them frantically swapping the jumpsuit for the black dress while whispering, "She can't find out like this." I left the remote on the table and spoke softly. "You wanted to keep this in the dark. So I brought the dark to everyone else. I'd already emailed the footage and screenshots to our entire family WhatsApp group. Cousins, aunts, Mark's, parents, Mom's country club friends. Titled simply, "Happy Birthday to Me." By the time I reached the front door, phones were buzzing in their pockets like angry hornets. Mom's closest friend walked out mid-dinner. Mark's mom called him a disgrace on speaker. Zoe's new boyfriend texted that he was done. I never raised my voice. I didn't need to. The truth did the screaming for me. 3 months later, I sold the house. Kept every penny Mark signed without a fight. I used the money to open my own photography studio. The same camera Zoe once used to document my perfect life now pays my bills. Mom moved 3 states away. Zoe changes jobs every 6 months. No one trusts her with secrets anymore. Mark got demoted when the story spread through his company. Sometimes, I still smell strawberry cake and feel that fracture in my chest. But the crack let the light in. I learned that blood doesn't make someone family. Loyalty does. And when loyalty dies, you don't mourn it. You bury it, salt the earth, and build something unbreakable on top. So if someone ever tells you to change the outfit because the truth is showing, let it show. Let it burn the whole lie down. Because the only thing more beautiful than a perfect birthday is the woman who rises from its ashes, stronger, freer, and finally, truly seen. The candlelight flickered across 20 smiling faces, and for one perfect second I believed love was unbreakable. It was my 29th birthday, and the cafe had never looked more magical. Fairy lights dripping from the ceiling like golden rain, fresh peonies spilling out of mason jars, and a chocolate fountain bubbling in the corner. I stood in the middle of it all, wearing the blush pink dress my fiancé Ryan had zipped up that morning. Whispering, "Tonight the whole world gets to see how beautiful you are, Soph." Mom floated in wearing a sapphire wrap dress that made her look 10 years younger. She pressed a velvet box into my hand. Inside was a pearl necklace that had belonged to my grandmother. "Now it's yours," she said, tears shining. My big sister Ava arrived next. Camera flashing, champagne already in hand. "To the bride-to-be," she shouted, and everyone roared. Ryan kissed my temple while Ava snapped the photo that would later haunt me. We were halfway through dinner when it happened. Ava leaned across the table, shielding her mouth with her napkin. I saw her lips move. "Mom, change it now." While they're distracted, Mom's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Her free hand flew to her neckline, tugging the fabric higher. Then she murmured something about the ladies' room and disappeared. I laughed it off. Maybe the dress was riding low. Maybe she spilled wine. But when she came back 5 minutes later, the sapphire dress was gone. She wore a plain gray cardigan buttoned to the throat, sleeves pulled over her hands, hair twisted into a sudden bun. Ava stared at her plate like it held the secrets of the universe. Ryan squeezed my knee under the table, oblivious. I raised my glass anyway. "To family," I toasted, voice bright. But inside, something cracked. Because the pearl necklace Mom had just given me. It wasn't hanging around my neck anymore, it was peeking out from under Ava's sleeve, the clasp catching the light every time she reached for her wine. And that was only the first lie I would unwrap before the night was over. I didn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. At 3 a.m., I sat on the cold bathroom floor scrolling through Ryan's Apple Watch that he'd left charging. One tap on Find My and Mom's location glowed, our apartment. 2 hours ago, while I was at my final dress fitting, I drove to her house at sunrise. She opened the door in Ryan's college hoodie, eyes swollen. The pearl necklace lay on the entry table like evidence. "How long?" I asked. My voice didn't even shake. She sank to the floor. 7 months, she whispered. "It started as comfort after your dad's anniversary. Ryan was helping me sort dad's things. One night she couldn't finish. Ava knew the whole time. She'd walked in on them 3 months ago and promised to keep their secret if Mom ended it. Mom swore she tried. She didn't. Ava became their cover story. Girls' night, helping Mom paint. Emergency shopping trip. That whisper at dinner. Ava spotted the fresh mark on Mom's collarbone and forced her to change before I saw. I confronted Ryan in our kitchen. He cried. Actually cried. Said Mom made him feel needed in ways I never did. Said the necklace was just a loan so Mom could get it cleaned for the wedding. Every word tasted like rust. I left that night with nothing but my phone and the blush dress still hanging in the closet. For weeks I was hollow. Friends found me asleep in my car outside the venue we'd booked. I stopped eating. Stopped answering calls. The pain lived in my bones. But one morning I looked at the engagement ring still on my finger and felt something shift. Not softer, harder. like a diamond forming under pressure. They thought I would disappear quietly. They forgot I was the one who planned every detail of that cafe party. I still had the guest list, and every single one of them was about to get an invitation they'd never forget. I didn't sleep. I couldn't breathe. At 3 a.m., I sat on the cold bathroom floor scrolling through Ryan's Apple Watch that he'd left charging. One tap on Find My and Mom's location glowed our apartment. 2 hours ago, while I was at my final dress fitting, I drove to her house at sunrise. She opened the door in Ryan's college hoodie, eyes swollen. The pearl necklace lay on the entry table like evidence. How long? I asked. My voice didn't even shake. She sank to the floor. 7 months, she whispered. It started as comfort after your dad's anniversary. Ryan was helping me sort dad's things. One night she couldn't finish. Ava knew the whole time. She'd walked in on them 3 months ago and promised to keep their secret if Mom ended it. Mom swore she tried. She didn't. Ava became their cover story. Girls' night, helping Mom paint. Emergency shopping trip. That whisper at dinner. Ava spotted the fresh mark on Mom's collarbone and forced her to change before I saw. I confronted Ryan in our kitchen. He cried. Actually cried. Said Mom made him feel needed in ways I never did. Said the necklace was just a loan so Mom could get it cleaned for the wedding. Every word tasted like rust. I left that night with nothing but my phone and the blush dress still hanging in the closet. For weeks I was hollow. Friends found me asleep in my car outside the venue we'd booked. I stopped eating. Stopped answering calls. The pain lived in my bones. But one morning I looked at the engagement ring still on my finger and felt something shift. Not softer, harder, like a diamond forming under pressure. They thought I would disappear quietly. They forgot I was the one who planned every detail of that cafe party. I still had the guest list, and every single one of them was about to get an invitation they'd never forget. The first lie was only 6 words long, but it destroyed everything I thought I knew about family. I was turning 27 in the little corner cafe that smelled like vanilla and old books. I'd spent 3 paychecks turning it into a fairy tale. Blush pink roses, string lights, a 3-tier lavender cake, and a playlist that started with the song My Fiancé Noah, and I danced to the night he proposed. Mom walked in wearing the softest cream sweater I'd ever seen, sleeves pushed up, a delicate rose gold watch catching the light on her wrist. My beautiful girl, she said, kissing my forehead like she used to when I had nightmares. My little sister Lily followed, arms full of balloons, grinning so wide I thought her cheeks would crack. Best birthday ever, she promised, hugging me so hard the balloons squeaked. Noah lifted his glass. To the woman who makes every day feel like magic. Everyone cheered. I floated. Then, right as the waiter set down the cake, Lily leaned across Mom and whispered, "Go change now, before she sees." Mom's smile died. She pressed her sleeve down over the watch, stood up to fast, and murmured, "Powder room." Like nothing was wrong. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she spilled coffee. Maybe the clasp broke. But when she came back 8 minutes later, the cream sweater was gone. She wore a black turtleneck pulled high, hair suddenly twisted up. No watch, no smile. Lily stared at her phone like it might save her. Noah squeezed my hand under the table. Clueless. I blew out the candles anyway. Made a wish for forever. But the smoke curling from those 27 flames carried a warning. I couldn't read yet because that rose gold watch wasn't just a gift, it was the exact one Noah had hidden in his sock drawer 3 weeks ago, wrapped in blue paper that said, "For my forever." And I was about to learn forever can end in a bathroom stall. I found the watch in Mom's laundry basket 2 days later. Same inscription on the back. 2S, all my tomorrows N. S for Sarah, my mom. N for Noah. I drove to her house at midnight. She opened the door in his t-shirt. "How long?" I asked. My voice sounded like someone else's. She folded to the floor. 5 months, she whispered. "It started when you were away for that work trip. He came to check on me. 1 glass of wine became she couldn't finish." Lily knew everything. She'd caught them the second time and swore she'd end it if Mom did. Mom promised she would. She didn't. Lily became their secret keeper. Fake alibis, deleted messages, look out at family dinners. That whisper at the cafe. Lily saw the watch and the faint red mark on Mom's neck and forced her to change before I noticed. I confronted Noah in our kitchen at 3 a.m. He didn't even try to lie. Just said, "Your mom makes me feel things you stopped making me feel a long time ago." I left with the clothes on my back and the engagement ring in the toilet tank. For weeks I was underwater. Couldn't eat, Couldn't breathe without feeling glass in my lungs? My best friend found me asleep on the bathroom floor, clutching the blue wrapping paper like a lifeline. But one morning, I looked in the mirror and saw a stranger with dead eyes. Something inside me snapped. Not apart, together, they thought. I would vanish quietly into the shame they gifted me. They forgot I was the one who planned every second of that birthday. I still had the cafe's security login. And 42 guests who deserved to know why the cake tasted like ash. I waited exactly 100 days. Long enough for Mom to wear the watch in public again. Long enough for Lily to post family first quotes on Instagram. Long enough for Noah to think he'd gotten away clean. Then I booked the same cafe, same corner, same fairy lights. I sent handwritten invitations on lavender cards. Sophia's gratitude brunch. Come celebrate the truth. That set me free. 40 people showed up expecting mimosas and memories. Instead, I dimmed the lights and pressed play. The walls turned into screens. First, clip, cafe security footage. Time-stamped my birthday. 7:42 p.m. Mom in the restroom mirror frantically pulling on the black turtleneck while Lily hisses. Hurry, she's coming. Second clip. Noah's phone backup. I'd cloned the night I left photos of Mom wearing the watch in our bed. Time-stamped while I was at work. Third, Lily's deleted voice note, recovered from the cloud. If you don't end it this week, I'm telling her everything. You could hear the air leave the room. Mom stood up so fast her chair fell. Sophia, turn it off. I smiled, soft and final. You taught me to share on my birthday, so I'm sharing. I left USB drives on every table like party favors. Walked out while the video looped. By the time I reached my car, the family group chat was on fire. Mom's church friends unfollowed her in real time. Lily's teaching job called her in for ethics review. She resigned before they could fire her. Noah's company transferred him to a town with no airport after his boss saw the footage. I used the wedding savings to buy a tiny beach cottage 400 miles away, painted every wall the exact blush pink of that dress I never wore again. Sometimes, Mom leaves voicemails I don't listen to. Lily mails letters I return unopened. Noah tried once from a new number. I'm sorry. I blocked it and planted roses where his contact used to be. That watch now hangs in a shadow box above my fireplace. The inscription still reads, all my tomorrows. I added a tiny plaque underneath. Some tomorrows aren't yours to give. I learned that the people who whisper, go change now, are the same ones who change you forever. But here's the secret they never tell you. When they break your heart, they hand you the pieces, and you get to decide what to build next. I built a life where no one ever asks me to look away again, and every morning the ocean sings happy birthday to a woman who finally knows her worth. I still wake up tasting the champagne and the lie at the same time. It was my 31st birthday, and the rooftop cafe glowed like a jewelry box, fairy lights tangled in ivy, rose gold balloons brushing the stars, a live violinist playing the song my husband Caleb and I danced to at our wedding. I wore the champagne silk dress he'd picked out, whispering, tonight you're the only light I see, Mia. Mom arrived first, radiant in a midnight blue wrap dress that made her look like moonlight. She pressed a small velvet pouch into my hand. Inside was a vintage diamond brooch shaped like a crescent moon. Your grandmother wore this when she felt unstoppable. She smiled. My older sister Tessa followed, heels clicking, phone flashing photos. Queen energy only, she declared, popping a bottle of Prosecco. Caleb raised his glass. To the woman who owns my whole heart. Everyone cheered. I believed him. Then, right as the violinist started my favorite song, Tessa leaned across Mom and whispered, change it now. Before she notices. Mom's champagne flute trembled. She clutched the brooch pinned at her waist, nodded once, and disappeared toward the restrooms. I laughed it off. Maybe the clasp was loose. Maybe she spilled something. But when she returned 6 minutes later, the midnight blue dress was gone. She wore a plain black blazer buttoned to the throat, hair scraped back, no brooch, no sparkle. Tessa stared into her phone like it might swallow her whole. Caleb refilled my glass too quickly. I smiled for the photos anyway. Cut the cake. Let them sing. But inside my chest, something cracked wide open. Because that crescent moon brooch wasn't just jewelry, it was the exact one Caleb had shown me on his phone 2 months ago. Custom-made, $12,000, for the most important woman in my life. And I was about to learn I wasn't her. I found the brooch in Mom's underwear drawer, 3 nights later, hidden inside one of Caleb's socks. The inscription on the back read, to my moon and stars, forever yours, C. I drove to her condo at 2 a.m. She opened the door barefoot, mascara streaked, wearing his Harvard t-shirt. "Tell me it's not what I think," I said. She sank onto the hallway floor and told me everything. It started with comfort after Dad's death anniversary. Caleb checking in. Coffee turned into wine. Wine turned into nights. I thought he was working late. 9 months. 9 months of my mother in my marriage bed while I planned anniversary surprises. Tessa knew from month 2. She'd walked in on them and threatened to tell me. Mom begged. Caleb paid for Tessa's new car to keep things quiet. That whisper on the rooftop. Tessa spotted the brooch and the fresh bruise on Mom's collarbone and forced her to change before the violinist's light hit them. I confronted Caleb in our garage at dawn. He didn't deny it, just said, "Your mom understands me in ways you never tried to." I left the rings on the kitchen island and the brooch on his pillow. For weeks I was a ghost. Slept in my car. Lost 14 pounds. My best friend found me sitting in the shower, fully dressed, water cold, whispering how could they on repeat. But one morning, I looked at the empty side of the closet where his suits used to hang and felt something ignite. Not tears. Fire. They thought I would fold. They forgot I was the one who booked every vendor for that rooftop. I still had their emails. And every guest who toasted to forever was about to get a different kind of speech. I waited 90 sunsets. Long enough for Mom to wear the brooch to Bridge Club. Long enough for Tessa to pose sisters before misters with a straight face. Long enough for Caleb to lease a new Porsche with our savings. Then I rebooked the exact rooftop. Same fairy lights, same violinist. I sent thick cream invitations sealed with gold wax. Mia's freedom party. Dress code, honesty. 68 people showed up expecting cake and champagne. Instead, I dimmed the lights and hit play. The ivy wall became a screen. Clip 1. Rooftop security cam. My birthday. 9:17 p.m. Mom in the restroom mirror pinning the brooch inside the black blazer while Tessa hisses. "Hurry, the violinist is turning." Clip 2. Caleb's deleted Venmo. History $18,000 to Tessa over 8 months, labeled family help. Clip 3. Mom's voice note recovered from the cloud. "If Mia finds out, we lose everything. Just one more month." You could hear champagne glasses hit the floor. Mom screamed my name. Tessa tried to unplug the projector. The violinist kept playing like it was the Titanic. I stepped into the light wearing the same champagne silk dress. Hair down, smile steady. "You taught me family shares everything," I said. So I shared. I left memory sticks tucked into every napkin ring and walked out while phones started detonating behind me. The aftermath was beautiful in its brutality. Mom's bridge club expelled her. Tessa's fiance left when he saw the Venmo. Caleb's firm restructured him to a windowless office in another state after clients pulled accounts. I kept the house, the dog, and every cent of the savings he thought he'd hidden. Used it to open a rooftop yoga studio overlooking the same cafe. Named it Moonrise. Sometimes Mom parks outside and leaves the brooch on my windshield with sorry notes I never read. Tessa's number is blocked. Caleb tried once from a burner. I made a mistake. I forwarded it to his mother and blocked him too. That brooch now hangs in my studio entrance with a new engraving underneath. "Some moons belong to the tide. Not to you." I learned that when someone whispers, "Change before she notices," they're really saying I'm ashamed of who I am. With "You never dim your light for their comfort. Let it burn so bright they have to squint to see what they lost." Because the best revenge isn't destruction. It's becoming the woman they'll never be. Brave enough to love again. And every sunrise on that rooftop, I do. Waited 90 sunsets. Long enough for Mom to wear the brooch to Bridge Club. Long enough for Tessa to post sisters before misters with a straight face. Long enough for Caleb to lease a new Porsche with our savings. Then I rebooked the exact rooftop. Same fairy lights, same violinist. I sent thick cream invitations, sealed with gold wax. Mia's freedom party dress code. Honesty. 68 people showed up expecting cake and champagne. Instead, I dimmed the lights and hit play. The ivy wall became a screen. Clip 1. Rooftop security cam. My birthday. 9:17 p.m. Mom in the restroom mirror pinning the brooch inside the black blazer while Tessa hisses. "Hurry, the violinist is turning." Clip 2. Caleb's deleted Venmo history. $18,000 to Tessa over 8 months labeled family help. Clip 3. Mom's voice note recovered from the cloud. "If Mia finds out, we lose everything. Just one more month." You could hear champagne glasses hit the floor. Mom screamed my name. Tessa tried to unplug the projector. The violinist kept playing like it was the Titanic. I stepped into the light, wearing the same champagne silk dress. Hair down, smile steady. "You taught me family shares everything," I said. So I shared. I left memory sticks tucked into every napkin ring and walked out while phones started detonating behind me. The aftermath was beautiful in its brutality. Mom's bridge. Club expelled her. Tessa's fiancé left when he saw the Venmo. Caleb's firm restructured him to a windowless office in another state after clients pulled accounts. I kept the house, the dog, and every cent of the savings he thought he'd hidden. Used it to open a rooftop yoga studio overlooking the same cafe. Named it Moonrise. Sometimes Mom parks outside and leaves the brooch on my windshield with sorry notes I never read. Tessa's number is blocked. Caleb tried once from a burner. I made a mistake. I forwarded it to his mother and blocked him too. That brooch now hangs in my studio entrance with a new engraving underneath. Some moons belong to the tide, not to you. I learned that when someone whispers, change before she notices, they're really saying I'm ashamed of who I am with. You never dim your light for their comfort. Let it burn so bright they have to squint to see what they lost. Because the best revenge isn't destruction, it's becoming the woman they'll never be, brave enough to love again. And every sunrise, on that rooftop, I do. I didn't sleep. I couldn't even blink. At 1 a.m., I drove to Mom's house with the spare key she still didn't know I had. The lockbox key was on her nightstand, right next to Dylan's watch. I opened her phone with the birthday code she'd used since I was 10, my exact birth date. Thousands of messages. Dylan, she's asleep, doors unlocked. Mom, bring the key. I miss wearing it against my skin. Photos of them in my bed, on my couch, in the car I helped pay for. 6 months. 6 months of Tuesdays I thought were mom-daughter dates and Thursdays Dylan said were late meetings. Brooke knew from week 3. She'd caught them in Mom's kitchen and threatened to tell me. Dylan paid for her Europe trip as a thank you for understanding. That whisper in the cafe. Brooke saw the key when Mom bent over to hug me and panicked. The live stream was still rolling. I confronted Mom at dawn. She collapsed on the porch, sobbing. I was lonely after your dad left. Dylan made me feel seen. I drove to our apartment. Dylan was making coffee in nothing but boxers. He saw my face and dropped the mug. Ellie, it's not what I held up the second key. It's exactly what I think. I left that same hour. Took only my laptop, my dog, and the birthday tiara still pinned to my hair. For weeks I was a zombie. Slept in my car. Stopped eating. My best friend found me curled on a Target bathroom floor at 2 a.m., whispering, "How do you unlove your own mother?" But one morning, I looked at the tiara in my rearview mirror and something inside me clicked. Like a bone setting itself. They thought I would disappear. They forgot I still had the Cafe's Ring camera login, the live stream file, and 87 guests who deserved to know why the macarons tasted like ash. I waited 88 days, one for every macaron on that wall. Then I rebooked the exact cafe. Same pastel balloons. Same donut wall. I sent glittery invitations. Ellie's Truth Day brunch. Come hungry for honesty. 70 people showed up expecting mimosas and selfies. I dimmed the lights and pressed play. The neon sign became a screen. First clip, cafe restroom. My birthday, to 14 p.m. Mom frantically unhooking the gold key while Brooke blocks the door, whispering, "Live stream is still on. Move." Second clip, Brooke's Venmo. $9,400 from Dylan labeled sister trip. Third clip, Mom's voice note recovered from iCloud, "If she finds the key, we're finished. Just one more week." The room went dead silent except for someone's mom gasping, "Sarah." Mom tried to stand. Her chair screeched like a horror movie. Brooke's phone slipped from her hand and shattered on the tile fitting. I stepped into the light wearing the same white lace sundress. Tiara polished, smile calm. "You taught me to share on my birthday," I said, so I shared the truth. I left us bees in every donut hole and walked out while the video looped. By the time I reached my car, the group chat was apocalyptic. Mom's yoga studio lost 40 clients overnight. Brooke's travel influencer account dropped 60K followers in an hour. Dylan's boss called him into HR after the video hit the company Slack. He was gone by Friday. I used the wedding fund to buy a tiny, yellow cottage 2 hours away, painted it the exact shade of Mom's sundress. Every morning I hang a new key on the porch. Brass, silver, rose gold reminders that some doors stay locked for a reason. Sometimes Mom parks across the street and cries. Brooke's letters come back, return to sender. Dylan tried once from a new number. I miss my summer girl. I screenshot it, posted it to the cafe's Google reviews, and blocked him. That gold key now hangs above my kitchen window with a tiny plaque. Some locks aren't meant to be picked. I learned that when someone whispers, change before anyone notices, they're really begging the universe not to see who they've become. Let the universe see. Let it scream. Because, the girl who once blew out candles wishing for forever, she grew up and learned the only thing you really need to wish for is a heart that can survive being broken open, and mine did. Now it's bigger, brighter, and locked only to me. The cafe smelled like vanilla and secrets that afternoon. It was my 30th birthday, and I had spent every penny of my bonus to turn the garden patio into a fairy tale, olive branches dripping from the pergola, a naked vanilla cake crowned with fresh figs, and 30 champagne glasses waiting to catch the golden hour light. I stood in the middle of it all wearing the sage green silk dress my husband Liam had zipped up that morning, whispering, "Tonight you're my entire universe." Ava, Mom, arrived first, glowing in a cream linen sundress, a delicate gold locket resting exactly where her heartbeat lived. She pressed a tiny box into my palm. Inside was a second, identical locket, one for each of us. She smiled, so we're always connected. My younger sister Ivy followed, barefoot in a sunflower yellow maxi, phone already recording. "Birthday Queen has entered the garden," she sang, and everyone laughed. Liam raised his glass, "To the woman who makes every day feel like magic." We were mid-toast when Ivy suddenly dropped her phone into her bag, leaned across Mom, and whispered so low only I could read her lips, "Change before anyone notices." Go. Mom's champagne flute trembled. She touched the locket like it burned, forced a laugh about needing the ladies' room, and vanished behind the olive trees. I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she spilled maybe the clasp broke. But when she returned, 7 minutes later, the cream sundress was gone. She wore Ivy's yellow cardigan buttoned to her throat, hair twisted up, no locket, eyes glassy with panic. Ivy stared at the table like it might swallow her. Liam kept topping up my glass too fast. I smiled for the photos anyway. Let them sing. Blew out the candles while staring at the empty space on Mom's neck where my matching locket used to be, because that wasn't just jewelry, it was the exact piece Liam had, hidden in his briefcase 3 weeks ago, engraved on the back with tiny coordinates, the exact spot in our garden where he proposed. And in that moment, surrounded by figs and fairy lights, I realized the sweetest day of my life was about to become the one that broke me open. I found the locket in Mom's bedside drawer at 3 a.m., tangled inside one of Liam's ties. The coordinates were scratched out and re-engraved, the address of the beach house we rented last summer where I thought they were giving me space to work. I opened her phone with the passcode she'd used since I was 12, my birthday, 4000, messages. Liam. She's asleep, doors open. Mom, bring the locket. I miss feeling it against my skin when you kiss me here. Photos of them in our bed, on our couch, in the car I still made payments on. 8 months. 8 months of girls' nights and late client dinners. Ivy knew from month 1. She'd walked in on them and threatened to tell me. Liam paid for her silence with the Paris trip she kept posting about. That whisper in the garden. Ivy saw the locket when Mom bent to hug me and realized my matching one was visible. 2 identical hearts would have ended everything right there under the olive trees. I confronted Mom on her kitchen floor at dawn. She collapsed, sobbing, "I was drowning after your dad left." Liam threw me a rope. I drove home. Liam was making pancakes and boxers. I held up the locket. He went white. Ava, it wasn't I dropped both lockets into his coffee. It's exactly what I think. I left with my dog and the birthday balloons still tied to my wrist. For weeks I was hollow, slept in my car, lost 10 pounds in 7 days. My best friend found me sitting in the shower fully dressed, water ice cold, whispering, "How do you unlove the woman who gave you life?" But one morning I caught my reflection wearing the same sage green silk, now wrinkled and tear-stained, and something inside me shifted. Not softer, sharper. They thought I would disappear into the shame they wrapped me in. They forgot. I still had the Garden Cafe's security login, the guest list, and 80 people who deserved to know why the figs tasted like ash.